The United Nations has warned of an imminent health disaster of catastrophic proportions as the nearly 4-week-old war on Gaza rages. The organisation is bracing itself for the outbreak of waterborne diseases such as typhoid and cholera, and warns that displaced Palestinians require insecticide and urges psychiatric support. This comes hours after an Israeli missile hit a UN-run school in Rafah, killing at least 10 people, many of them children. It was the second strike on a UN-run shelter in less than a week.
I have spoken to residents of Gaza that have moved from their homes not once, not twice, but 3 times, and they ask me, Mr. Rowley, you work for the UN, where can I go? And I have to tell them I don't have an answer. There's no safe place in Gaza.
A 7-hour partial humanitarian ceasefire agreed this morning was broken after an Israeli strike on a refugee camp in Gaza City killed an 8-year-old girl and wounded 29 others. They were rushed to Al-Shifa hospital.
الطفل صغير هذا يزمت ايش ذنبه ليه يصاب هذا تعور ايش عامل هذا حامل سلاح هذا الطفل حامل سلاح الطفل هذا ولا حامل حاجه هذا اعذر.
Another strike was launched in the city of Jabalia just before the ceasefire came into force. 8 members of the Najim family were killed. Their home was completely wiped out. Ahmed Najim is a surviving family member who spoke of how these deaths were a sacrifice to their freedom.
احنا بندفع ضريبة القدس، هاي شبابنا، هاي عنواننا، ضريبة القدس، الطريق للقدس، عقدتنا، وهي عنواننا، هاي شبابنا، أكثر واحد بس 21 سنة عمره.
Israel began the short-lived humanitarian ceasefire in order to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid and allow the displaced people to go back home. It was met with suspicion from Hamas and Gaza's residents. The ceasefire applied everywhere except the southern town of Rafah, where ground forces engaged in assaults due to the deaths of 3 soldiers by Hamas forces. In other developments, the Chinese foreign minister, who visited Cairo this week, outlined a 5-point plan urging both Israel and Hamas to stop the ongoing fighting. Foreign Minister Yi called on Israel to lift its 7-year blockade of the Strip and to release Palestinian prisoners.
以巴双方应从维护人民安危和地区和平出发，立即实现全面停火，包括空袭、地面军事行动、发射火箭弹等，都应当停下来。任何滥用武力造成平民伤亡的行为都不可接受，任何以暴制暴的做法都必须摒弃。
Yi also said that Israel had reasonable concerns over its security issues and that this should also be acknowledged. Cairo is currently hosting a united delegation of various Palestinian factions, including Fatah, Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. This is centered around talks on the Egyptian bid for peace in Gaza. China has voiced support for this initiative. Israel says it is currently winding down its offensive in the Strip, saying that the military is close to completing its main objective of destroying tunnels from Gaza. More than 1,800 Palestinians have so far been killed, with the majority of them civilians. A quarter of the 1.8 million population have been displaced and 3,000 Palestinian homes have been destroyed or completely damaged. In solidarity, Palestinians in the occupied West Bank have launched a nationwide blood donation campaign in an attempt to help hospitals struggling to cope in the Gaza Strip. The large number of wounded who have been rushed to these hospitals have caused hospitals to reach breaking point. Beds, mattresses, medical supplies and sheets and blood are urgently sought for.
جاي برا في دم الأخوة في غزة وهذا اللي احنا بنقدر عليه. يعني هذا هو اللي بنقدر عليه احنا نقدم لأخواتنا في غزة. ومن كلهم المزيد للمقاومة واحنا مع المقاومة.
Israel has lost 64 soldiers in the offensive, with 3 Israeli civilians killed by rockets and mortar fire. Afzal Ahmed, Islam Channel.